What up,
What
everybody?
up?
How you guys doing? Hey, if you don't
Hi.
know Keith Guernsey, you should.
Yes.
Two-time cancer survivor, author of 4 books.
4 books.
4, and they're
4.
all on Amazon. We'll get you the link. It'll be
Absolutely.
down there or over there or around or somewhere. Keith, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing real
Thanks for
good.
having me on. This is great.
All right.
This is
Hey,
great.
thank you for being here. So
pleasure.
you are a myeloma survivor, correct?
Right. That's the second cancer battle. First, I had prostate cancer.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And then I had to wait 6 months, but I had successful prostate cancer surgery.
Okay.
And doctor came in and he had a smile on his face, which for him was very rare. And he said, Mr. Guernsey, the surgery was a complete success and you are cancer free.
Yes.
So I went dancing out of the room and dancing down the hall. And if you've ever seen a clumsy, uncoordinated old guy dance, you know it's a sight to behold.
Me?
Yes, you.
And I got a lot of comments and strange looks, but I didn't care.
That's
I was prepared to live the last third of my life completely healthy with my lovely wife Susan at my side.
nice.
And then 3 months later, in a routine follow-up blood draw, it was determined that I had high levels of protein in my blood and was sent across the hall to a hematologist. And she said, you have multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a rare blood cancer for which there is treatment, but no cure at this time.
Okay.
I'm in my second year of remission, and I have implemented my 6-point plan, and I'm happy to report that I'm feeling healthier at 69 years young than at any time since I started playing hockey at 28.
Wow.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
I feel great.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Now, with your cancer, you're kind of also helping others out.
Yes,
My understanding is you're a myeloma coach. Is that correct?
I am. Yes.
Can you
And basically,
let us know a little bit about that. How do you help these folks out?
other patients come to me through a website that deals with myeloma, and they're referred to me, and I just, kind of lend an ear, if you will, and I tell them my experiences to give them, a basis for feeling better about themselves, help them kind of over the mindset hump of being depressed and anxious and nervous about the process. And it's worked very well. I tell them about my process. I tell them, what's led me to be in remission the second year and feeling great. And just, a lot of it's just lending an ear and imparting what I've done.
That's cool. I like that.
So it's I also work with the American Cancer Society and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I feel like I have been very, very blessed. And it's important for me to give back.
I completely understand. I totally get it. I like it.
So when you started writing the books, because you've written 4 so far, your first book, was that something that was, did it take you a long time to write it? Or was that something that you were able to get through and write quickly? Or what was the process?
No. The other ones have come much more quickly because,
right.
The subject matter is cancer in the last 2. My first book, I never intended to become an author, but I started jotting down remembrances of games I played, and I played in hockey and football, games I attended because, as the name implies, I am a Boston sports fanatic.
Right.
Just a little one, right?
Yeah. And we retired in 2013 and moved here to Crestwood. It's an active adult community on Lake Lanier in Georgia. And my wife said, I have been hearing about this book for 20 years. We are retired. Finish the darn thing.
So her.
I like it.
We got to give her credit. For getting it done, right?
She gets all the credit in the world.
Absolutely.
So I finished that. Confessions of a Beantown Sports Junkie in 2014,
Nice.
and went up on Amazon, and I had a nice 5-star review within 24 hours,
Yes.
and I went from there. And it was just, it's a thrill, writing and seeing your name on Amazon, getting 5-star reviews, and leaving a legacy for my 2 grandsons, which is
Right.
There you go.
the point. Second book in 2016 was the sequel, Fathers and Sons Sports and Life. Was more, it talks about sports too, but it's more family oriented. And I talk a lot about my uncommon love and bond with my late father, Gordon, who was my everything, my best friend, my father, the whole 9 yards, and sat in every frozen rink in North America, watching every practice and every game I ever played in.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is cool.
Hats off to,
Yeah.
we just had Father's Day.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
hats off to another great father,
Yep.
that was really inspiring to you. And the fact that you have a father that was there at everything. That's
Unbelievable.
fantastic to hear.
And he's been gone 12 years, and I still miss him every day.
Right.
But I try to live, in his memory in terms of just being a good person, a good citizen. In my case, being a good husband, a good father, a good grandfather, and just, kind of live by the golden rule, as in do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Type of.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And that's my story.
Tell me about the first book, because you kind of alluded to that was more like community and stuff like that, and being, basically a Beantown sports fan, right?
Yes,
Tell
exactly.
me, more, obviously, were you in the book? You talking about your childhood mostly? Is that, or is it go into later of just being is it childhood and growing up? And,
Well,
what were the kind of, give me a little insight into the book.
Okay. I grew up in Lexington, Mass, historic Lexington, Mass. Don't shoot till you see the whites of our eyes, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And we were 12 miles from Fenway Park.
Okay.
And so I got caught up in the baseball craze because, baseball isn't a game in Boston. It's a passion and a religion.
Mm.
And I wanted to play Little League. Even though I was built like a sumo wrestler, I still wanted to try my hand at Little League. And my mother finally relented and signed the permission slip. And to this day, I don't know whether she signed it because she really wanted me to give it a try, or she was tired of hearing me nag her
Yeah, right.
about playing.
Yeah.
So the next step was getting a uniform. And I went to the mailbox every day, waiting for the uniform. It finally came, nice, shiny, starched white uniform. Put on the jersey, fit fine. Put on the pants, and they wouldn't fit over my rather large posterior region. And so my mother, in her infinite wisdom, decided, I'm going to fix these. And she cut a V right in the rear end. But she didn't have any white material to put there. All she had was gray material. So long story short, we had a huge parade, band, fire engines, the whole 9 yards, from one end of town to the other. We got to the center field ballpark, and there were thousands of, other teammates and fans and friends and family there. And you had 100 ball players, 50 on the first base line, 50 on the third base line, and 99 of them had the most perfect starched white uniforms. And one had a uniform with a big gray V in his butt.
Oh, that's the cap.
I never hear the end of it. And, with my last name, Guernsey, as in the breed of cattle in the same name, and being heavy set as I was, never lived it down. But, and that was my most embarrassing moment on a baseball
Or you
field.
could have made it a trend.
Yes, exactly.
Right. It was my most embarrassing moment, but surprisingly not by that much. Because the very first game that I played in, in Little League, everyone had to play a little bit. So the coach sent me out to right field, praying that the ball would never actually be hit to me. First batter hit it way, way over my head. And I started to go back for the ball, and a gust of wind came up, and my hat blew off. So instead of going after the ball, I went back and got my hat.
Oh gosh.
And of course, by then the guy had long since circled the bases.
Yeah.
So my only saving grace in these two incidents that YouTube and America's Funniest Home Video did not exist at that time.
Oh yes, right.
Darn.
So there was
Being the huge Boston fan that you are, and I'm a huge baseball fan. 2004. When the
unreal.
Red Sox bought home the World Series. What
Yeah.
for you? What was the feeling?
It's kind of hard to describe. It was a tremendous relief and euphoria, and it just, I look at the highlights every now and then, and just it's hard to fathom that they came back from that, a 3-0 deficit against the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
World Series itself was almost anticlimactic, but beating the Yankees, their most hated rival, being down 3 games, it was just unbelievable. And the whole city went absolutely berserk.
Yep.
For me, it was almost a relief because I was in the bleachers in the 1975 World Series.
Oh.
And I was in the right field grandstand, and I was 3 outs away from seeing them win the first championship in 67 years.
Oh, my goodness.
They had a 3-0 lead in the 7th inning, and they brought in some reliever, and I think his name, if I remember correctly, was Jim Burton. And he started giving up home runs and hits, and all of a sudden, they blew that 3-0 lead and lost the World Series, and it broke my heart being there. I was so sure that I was going to see them win it all, but didn't happen. So 2004 was amazing. And then having them win 3 more championships in the next, 15 years was just, after not winning one in 86 years, having them win 4 in a 17-year period was just not phenomenal.
It's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Francona, I'll tell you what, that guy works miracles. But anyway.
So you
You
also said you played football, right?
I did. Okay.
And hockey.
Yes.
So, I mean, Boston's huge for football and hockey as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So give me a couple of brushes with some of the best in Boston. Like, have you met some of the hockey players or football players or baseball players from the area?
Yeah. This is perfect. You're my straight man, so I can say this. I had the very rare privilege of playing against Hockey Hall of Famers Bobby Orr and Ray Borg growing up.
Wow.
I was in the 8th grade, and typical 8th grade guy, my focus was on girls and sports, not on academics whatsoever. My father said he knew I wanted to go to hockey camp that summer, and he said, if you pass all your grades, keeping in mind my sister was a straight A student, if you pass all your grades, I will pay and take you to 2 weeks of hockey camp. Now, he figured he had a safe bet because there was one hockey camp 30 minutes to the north and one 45 minutes to the west. I got a brochure from a camp as far north on the North American continent as you can go and still be on dry land. It was called Halliburton Hockey Haven, Crosslung Lake, Donald, Ontario, Canada. And it was the equivalent of driving from Boston to California.
Yeah.
So I said, and all these NHL stars were going to be there. Red Kelly, Ron Ellis, Bernie Perron, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was starstruck. I said, I want to go here. My father, to his undying credit, never uttered a word of complaint at all. He drove me all the way up there, 3,000 miles, dropped me off, and came all the way back, and then repeated the process 2 weeks later at the end of the camp.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was amazed. He was so patient. Unfortunately, in my case, patience skipped a generation in the Guernsey family. But we get on the ice the first day, and like I say, Red Kelly, Ron Ellis, Rich Selby, Bernie Perront, Ken Hodge, and there was this crew cut 18-year-old kid, blonde crew cut, the summer before he played his first season with the Bruins, and it was Bobby Orr. and I was totally in awe. And we've actually kept in touch over the years. He
Wow.
sends me autographed copies of his books. I send him autographed copies of my books.
Nice.
And I had breakfast with Rodney Harrison, the Patriots safety.
Yeah.
When we moved down here, we were in Duluth, and we had breakfast together at a place called Jay Christopher's. I met a lot of them over these, Tommy Heinsohn, Dave Cowens, and many more. And it was a wonderful experience living in that area, meeting all those people. As a matter of fact, when we get down here, you remember Jason Veritek? You're a baseball fan.
Oh, yeah.
So you know who Jason Veritek was. His neighbor was my wife's boss, and he gave us his tickets to one game. Unfortunately, it was hot as blazes. We were up in the third tier,
Oh.
and the Red Sox got shut out that day. So it wasn't a good day, but
No.
it's been a enormous experience with being a Boston sports fan. Being down here in Georgia, just thought of a great story. We had been to a social event over at our clubhouse, and yes, I did have a couple of adult beverages, but I wasn't drunk or anything, but I just had a few beers, just enough to make me not pay attention to what I was doing. Jammed my foot into a chair, a very sharp chair leg, and I came in between my toes and started bleeding. And I said to my wife, I says, "Oh, I'm just to slap a Band-Aid on there." And I went in the bathroom, and she said, "Look down at your foot. Look at the puddle of blood on the floor." And she wrapped it up in a towel with duct tape, took me to the hospital. And I had thrown on, and I didn't realize I'd done this. It was quite by accident. It was very shortly after the Patriots' big comeback against the Falcons, their 25-point comeback.
Oh.
I throw on my Patriots championship sweatshirt. I throw on my Patriots championship hat. My wife had called to tell them we were coming, walked through the door, and the doctor was standing there, ER doctor was standing there with about a dozen nurses and orderlies behind him. And he said, "Gee, I'm sorry, Mr. Guernsey, I can't treat you." Totally straight face. And he waited a minute, and everyone cracked up, and he said, "Because you're a Boston sports fan and what your Patriots did to my Falcons." And it was hysterical. Now, when we got to the end, when he stitched me up between the toes, I know it was probably my imagination, but I could have sworn I felt that needle go in a little deeper just because, Now, whether that's true or not, it might be my imagination, but it's been a real trip. What's that?
How many stitches?
Oh, I had 4.
That works.
Which brought me to 254 total stitches.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm wearing a headset, because after the first brain surgery,
That's
I
what
became-
I was going to talk about next.
I became deaf in my left ear.
Okay.
So
Wow. So explain to our folks out there why you had brain surgery, because I know you had 2 of them, but
yes, I had, and they never conclusively said, this is why you had this injury. But I'm sure playing 2 collision sports like hockey and football did not help.
no.
But I had a benign brain tumor called an acoustic neuroma on my 8th cranial nerve on the left side. Now, I had it removed in 95 in a 10-hour operation. And I came through the operation fine, but because it was the cranial nerve, the hearing nerve, left me deaf in my left ear. Now, I don't know how this happened. Nobody in the medical community could explain it, but my hearing in my right ear got better to compensate.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I know. And nobody had a good answer, and I didn't really care. So, generally speaking, unless I tell you or unless I wear a headset like this, you wouldn't know I was deaf in my
No,
left ear because,
exactly.
the right ear is compensated. But
So you have
That was-
your wife sit on your left side, right?
yes.
Perfect. Okay.
That was 95, 10-hour operation, very successful. 96, I met my lovely wife, Susan, on a blind date from a personal ad in the newspaper,
Oh, wow.
which they had long before Match and eHarmony.
I remember
Um,
those.
And my first gift to her was, oh, by the way, I need more brain surgery. Very soon after we met. But they had gotten the whole, they had gotten the whole tumor cell. And they'd gotten the whole tumor, but not the surrounding cells. So I had another 12-hour operation in 97. Left me with headaches to beat the band because they were doing a lot of scraping around to get all the tumor cells. And all I could do, I couldn't really sit, stand, walk, talk, crawl, anything. All I could do was sit and eat. And I ate all the wrong things. And I'm only 5'9", but again, I have a stocky frame, but still. I got on the scale and it said 340 pounds. And I said, this is ridiculous. I've just met the girl of my dreams and we're going to have a very, very short life together unless I get the weight off. And so I started back to the gym, lost 50 pounds when we moved down here at first. Then I plateaued out. We moved here. There's a great gym, 300 yards from our house. And I started going there every weekday morning at 5 o'clock for an hour. And I cut back on my portions. I stopped snacking. I cut back on my soda intake. And the weight just started to come off slowly but surely.
Nice.
And so I lost 140 pounds intentionally. Then when I was in the hospital with my second cancer, I lost 30 pounds unintentionally.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've gained 10 back. So I'm right where I need to be at 180. So I've lost a total of 160 pounds and feeling great. So it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A lot of challenges.
Journey. And thank you for sharing your journey with us. We really,
Oh,
really
my pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yep. We really appreciated this. And
Yeah.
make sure that anybody who's watching, down in our description, you've got the links to his Amazon page. You can find his books.
Appreciate that.
Purchase his books. You'll be able to find out about his myeloma coaching.
Yes.
So all the information is going to be there. We want to thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And we hope to hear more from you in the future.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it.
Keith, thank you.
Take care. You're welcome. Take care.